Hello, beautiful souls. My name is Jessie, and welcome back to another episode of Rewire To Inspire. The show where we'll dive into self-love, learn tangible ways to rewire the brain, and discovering your soul's purpose. The goal of Rewire To Inspire is to encourage listeners to begin doing the hard work, to get curious and open to maximizing your life. Our mindset shapes how we live. Depending on life events, traumas, and personal experiences, our mindsets are all vastly different. However, one thing we all have in common is the ability to rewire our mind, to change the narrative, and to pivot our lives. I hope you leave each episode with the belief that you are so worthy to live a life true to you. I look forward to chatting with you every single Tuesday and Thursday and helping you grow exponentially in all areas of your life. Without further ado, here's today's episode. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to my podcast, Rewire To Inspire. I am your host, Jessie Brown, and I am beyond excited to be jumping on the microphone with you all for episode number 125. If you missed last week's episode number 124, 4 facts about trauma everyone should know, I definitely encourage you to go check that episode out if you haven't already. It is a conversation that we can all benefit from. Learning more about trauma and how trauma affects the mind and the body is something that can all help us in one way, shape, or form. Depending on what our experiences have been, that might resonate with you differently. However, I do truly think that there is lots of great nuggets within that episode that I think you guys could all benefit from and would probably really enjoy. For today's episode, number 125, we are going to be chatting about all things choices. Do you care about your choices? If you are listening to this on Tuesday, I just want to wish a happy belated Mother's Day. I am recording today's episode on Mother's Day. It is a beautiful Sunday morning here. I have my coffee beside me. I am all geared up and ready to go. And so if you are listening to this the week after Mother's Day or whenever, shout out to all you moms out there. I am so grateful for each and every one of you. And I hope you know how special you are. And I hope you know that in your heart 365 days of the year, not just one day of the year. So, you guys, today's episode is one of those contemplation episodes. Honestly, this week, I'm coming at you guys with lots of areas and ways that we can begin to contemplate, raise our awareness, look at our life differently. At the end of the day, that really is the goal of my podcast in a nutshell, is to rewire our brain. And that can sometimes be on a micro aspect or a macro aspect. However, each decision that we make influences something for us in the future. Whether we can see what that ripple effect is or we can't, whether it's a direct or an indirect impact, every decision and choice that we make produces an outcome. Where you are right now in life is based off of decisions that have been made simultaneously throughout your life. Yet we look at choices as just this thing we have to do in life. But how often are you really contemplating your choices? The small things that seem insignificant, the things that don't seem like they matter. Are you someone who just trusts your intuition, picks whatever you think is best? Or are you somebody who has your future self in mind? The reason today's episode serves for me to share with you guys is because, as you guys know, I'm the assistant coach for group coaching with Next Level University. Shameless plug, it is one of the best programs. It is honestly, group coaching is what kickstarted a lot of my self-improvement journey. And so if you're ever curious to learn more about that, definitely let me know and I would be willing to chat all things group coaching, Next Level University. All the things. They are amazing. They have changed my life. But during the 3rd session of group coaching, we go through this activity and it's called the Next Level C's is basically what it's called. And so basically it's this list of items that all start with C. It's words that all start with C. And the goal of the exercise is for members to rate themselves 0 to 10. And to choose somebody as the floor and as the ceiling. So what I mean by that is they choose someone that they think is ahead of them and maybe someone that they think is further behind than them. And it's an uncomfortable exercise. A lot of group coaching is doing uncomfortable exercises. And so just to read the 10 C's out to you to make it make sense, we talk about clarity, commitment, confidence, consistency, community, choices, character, courage, candor, and contribution. And I've done this exercise a couple of times. And the one that always sticks out for me, always, and this is always the one that I find interesting to read people's facial expressions and responses when they do the homework, is choices. Rating yourself 0 to 10, how accurate you are when you make your choices. So the definition that we provide is an act of selecting or making a decision when faced with 2 or more possibilities. The quality of your choices. The quality of your choices. And so even upon reading that, if you were to put yourself in those shoes of those members, where would you rate yourself 0 to 10 on how accurate you are when faced with making a decision when there's 2 or more options? Where are you at with that? Which decision do you typically make when faced with 2 or more? Do you typically find yourself focusing on your present self or on your future self? What I've also come to realize being a coach and also having done quite a few reps as a counselor is that we're either driven by present fulfillment, by present pleasure, or by future fulfillment. The goal of today is for you guys to really begin to assess, are you someone who is so focused on the present that your future self is taking a hit, even though you can't see that? Or are you someone that perseveres through the present so that your future self is better off? Or are you somewhere in between? Because this can range in spectrums depending on what the subject is. My goal of today is for you guys to begin to contemplate, because I know what it's like to be on both sides of this, to be future-oriented and both simultaneously at once, and the impact and the significance that each and every one of our choices has on that outcome. Are you someone who contemplates your decisions? I wanted to share with you guys a phase of my life when I was around 18 to 20 years old. I was lost, you guys. Okay, I couldn't even think of tomorrow, yet alone 5 years down the road, 3 years down the road. My life was kind of a blur at that time, if you will. I just needed to get to tomorrow. If you've been there, you're not alone. If you're living in that right now, you're not alone. And so at that time, I was dating someone who, in hindsight, looking back now, was most definitely not in alignment with my true potential. But at the time, because my self-worth was so low, my choices were a direct mirror of that. The foods that I was consuming, how frequently I was drinking alcohol, how late I was staying up, parties I was going to, people I was surrounding myself with, conversations I would have with myself, stuff that I was buying irrationally, the work that I was putting into my schooling and into my work. Everything was just, let's just get it done, get it submitted, move on to the next thing. Really just focusing on a lot of funsies time. And although this was a time that this typically happens, because I was at the beginning of my, career after going to college and figuring my life out, figuring out what I want to do. I had never really had that sense of freedom before. So in a way, it was the first time that adulthood had set in. But I recognized that did trickle into my life over the next 4 years. I had set the tone at that age for the next couple of years. I basically, because I had been smaller my whole life, I had the mindset of I can eat whatever I want. I don't really have to exercise so much. And looking back now in hindsight, it's just because my self-worth was so low. And I'm realizing that oftentimes when we make choices, poor choices for ourselves, that we know in the moment we want to do them, but we know we're going to feel like crap after. Food is a good example of this. We know that if we, we know that if we eat fast food, for example, we're probably going to feel like crap after, but we want to eat it. We're craving it. It sounds good. But we know that our future self is going to take a hit. I had done that in so many areas of my life at that time that I was setting the tone. I wasn't contemplating my decisions. And because I had just gotten so good at being on autopilot and not contemplating, allowing myself to just have pleasure, 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 that part of my brain really developed a sense of, okay, as soon as we want something, a little dopamine hit, whatever, Jessie will give it to us. There's no contemplation. And so I can proudly say now that I'm at a place where there's not much that I don't contemplate. When I'm faced with two or more decisions, I'm almost always thinking of my future self. How is this going to affect my future self? And I'm not perfect by any means. I still struggle with this in certain areas. You guys, especially with finances, there's certain times that I really, really want something because it's super cute. It's typically home decor related. And I have to ask myself, is this what's best for my present or best for my future? Is my future self going to take a hit if I purchase this? What is the compound of this item? Same with food. If I keep feeding myself food that is hurting my gut and my body and my hormones and everything, is my future self taking a hit? The answer is yes. And so now that I've gotten to a point where I'm in that contemplation mindset, I feel like I'm at a good place now where I can share both sides of the spectrum. And so right now I want you to ask yourself again, 0 to 10, how future oriented is your thinking and is your choices? If you are low on this, that is okay. That's why self-awareness and contemplation is so important. And the whole goal of these episodes, they are not to shame or blame or to fix things overnight, but instead for us to stop the train for just a second, rewrite the destination, rewrite the journey, and keep going. But if we just keep autopilot going on bad choices after bad choices, they are going to compound. And eventually one day we're going to say, shoot, I wish I would have done this sooner. I wish I had done that when I was younger. I wish I would have changed this sooner, this habit, that habit, whatever it is. Next thing I want you to do is I want you to identify which areas you typically do this. Some common areas are with finances. That's with our health. It's with fitness. It's with consuming drugs or alcohol. It's with our career in a way, because if our career is only bringing us short-term pleasure, but it's not actually bringing us fulfillment or setting our future self up, it's likely not the most optimal choice. People around us are another huge example of this. I used to keep people around just for the pure reason of having people around. That was not serving my future self. In retrospect, that was actually blocking my future self from attracting new aligned people because I was just okay at that time with keeping anybody around. Again, low sense of self-worth. I think when we have a higher sense of self-worth, we're making decisions from a different headspace. Because if we're not really finding that love for ourselves, that respect for ourselves, it's a lot easier to make poor decisions because we're like, whatever. But if our sense of worth is higher, our outlook on the future is brighter. Our future seems more hopeful. We're more likely to gear up towards a successful future. But if you're sitting there going, I don't really care. I'm already too old for this. Nothing can really change for me. That's honestly a fixed mindset in and of itself. And I want you to know that it's never too late to think of your future self. Your future self could just mean tomorrow. It could mean next week. It could mean next year. You get to paint the picture of what that means. But sometimes even just saying, tomorrow me will regret this decision will allow you to make a better decision today. We don't have to think 5-10 years down the road, although I think for some situations, depending on our age, we need to be, specifically with finances, we need to be thinking about our future. You get to accurately assess for yourself what most resonates with you with this. Which area do you typically find yourself giving yourself that that present fulfillment, that pleasure, that feels so good right now, I'm okay with this. And then also, how often are you doing that? Because it's okay from time to time to have present pleasure. We need that sometimes. But if we're doing it in all areas of our life, you're also probably feeling very unfulfilled. If our whole dynamic of our life is shaped around and running around this sense of pleasure, and there's not really a lot of fulfillment happening, not working towards anything, our self-worth almost takes a hit again. So it's like we have low self-worth. Our habits mirror that for us. Because those habits are in place, we're reiterating the low self-worth, and then they kind of become infinity twined with each other. Start with an area that you think you can take the most control of, and start there, and then work in the other areas. For me, I know this was financial. I knew I had to make better present financial decisions despite things that I wanted. I had to ask myself, is my future self taking a hit because of this? Yes. Am I okay with that? No. Okay. So we need to put the thing back. We need to move on. We need to just, whatever that looks like for you. I want you guys to imagine what your life could look like if you were more future driven. Ask yourself, ask your past self, hey, past self, if you were more future driven, what could my life look like right now? That's sometimes a big mirror for us when we have that contrast of where we've been and where we are. If since 20 years old, I had saved, I don't know, $100 every paycheck until now, I'd have way more money than I do now. Just a small example, but you can see the compound. If I had barely ever eaten any junk food for the last 4 years, how would my life look now? If I had read a book every day for the last 4 years, how would my life look now? When we were thinking reverse, because it's almost how our brain likes to think, we're able to then paint a picture looking forward. So, okay, how can I set 4-year Jessie in the future up for the success that I'm maybe craving and wanting now and wishing I had given to myself? It's never too late to give that to yourself. The thing is that the habits that are gonna set us up in the future for more fulfillment are typically the more challenging road. It's not the fun one. And so we have to choose our hard. We can't want the results without wanting to input the habits and the decisions that it takes to get there. Remember, this all started with the definition of choices in this activity, the act of selecting or making a decision when faced with 2 or more possibilities. What do you choose? Do you choose the easier road, or do you choose the high road? Or the hard road, sorry, not the high road. In closing for today, you guys, I had wrote down a couple mindset questions that I like to ask myself. And the first one is, how can I serve my future self today? A great question of that to me this morning when I woke up was, record your podcast episodes. That's going to help your day flow better. That's going to help your week flow better. You have content that needs to be out for Tuesday. We have free time right now. Let's do that. Let's focus on that. How can I serve my future self today? Before you consume something, ask yourself that question. Before you act upon doing something that seems like it's just for pleasure, ask yourself that question. If we all started our day with that question, imagine how differently we might live. What's one thing I can do today, even one thing, that is going to serve my future self? Is this what's best for my present or my future? Another strong contemplation question that I like to use. When faced with 2 or more decisions, and it can be hard, that's what I'll ask myself. Is this best for my present or for my future? And the last question, is this fulfilling me? Is this truly something that is fulfilling you? Or is it an escape from something? Is it a coping from something? Is it just trying to feel good in the moment? Or is it actually fulfilling you? Because if the answer is no, I promise you somewhere down the line, you're taking that hit. It could be showing up and feeling sad the next day. You might be feeling off, out of line, out of alignment, out of fulfillment, out of gratitude, out of body. Most times that we feel icky, it's because our true self knows that we're not in alignment with our higher self and with our true potential. But the only way that we can fix that is through contemplation of our choices. If we want to be as in alignment as possible, it comes down to the choices that we make every single day. What we say yes to, what we say no to. think of our future self and think how they would want you to be thinking now. Because I promise you, there's areas that we can all improve in this. You likely have one that sticks out more for you than the others. Focus on that one and know that it can and will become easier, because you'll start to reap the reward of what it is like to also push through even when you don't want to. Whenever I want to do something, but I know it's not best for me and I don't do it, I almost always thank myself. But when I cave in and I give in because it's fun and joyful and, sometimes we need those things, I almost always feel like crap after. I'm like, shoot, I did it again. I told myself I wasn't going to, eat bad food, or I wasn't going to waste time scrolling on my phone again, and yet I did it. And now I'm feeling that. Identify what that is for you and start there, and know that it can and will shift with awareness and with proper decision making. So I want to thank you guys so much for tuning into today's episode, number 125. We are getting up there in the numbers, you guys. I had to just look down for a minute and I'm like, holy smokes, we're getting up there, which is so amazing and so incredible. And so I want to thank you guys so much as well for reaching out. I've had a couple of you reach out in the last couple of weeks, more than ever before. And so I just want you to know how much that inspires me and keeps me going. If it is in alignment for you, I would absolutely love for you to follow this show. There's typically a plus sign if you are on Apple or on Spotify where you can follow the show so you never miss a new episode. There's a place below to leave a review and to rate the show. That is truly what helps me to reach more people and get this show into the hands of more people. And so if that is an alignment for you and something that you feel pulled to do, and this has helped you in any way, shape, or form, that always helps me out sincerely. So thank you guys so much as always. Again, wishing all you mothers out there the most incredible week, incredible day, incredible year, incredible life. I'm so grateful for all you mamas out there. All the love, you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, and I look forward to chatting with you all on Thursday. Bye, you guys. Thank you all so much for tuning into today's episode of Rewire to Inspire. I absolutely love connecting with you all, so make sure you're following me on Instagram. I am at Jessie Brown 13. If you enjoyed today's episode, please feel free to leave a review or share with someone you think would enjoy. I look forward to chatting with you all next episode. And remember, get out of your head and into your heart.